y'all, it's Hope at Crafty Hope, and welcome to my ICAD number, what is this, 60? Oh my gosh, there's one more after this one left. So, ICAD means Index Card a Day. It's a challenge that runs each June and July from Daisy Yellow, who's Tammy Garcia, or she's Gypsy999 on Instagram. But she gives daily prompts and weekly themes for you to alter an index card, basically. And you don't have to use those. The whole idea is to take that 61 days and just make something on an index card. Nina Fickett got in on this and had a list of mixed media ICAD prompts as well. And on this day, the two prompts, the Daisy Yellow prompt was mixtape, and the mixed media ICAD prompt was wood. So I'm kind of combining those into one thing here. You see I have a stamp that's got a cassette tape on it, which is what I think of when I hear the term mixtape. And then for wood, I've got this wood veneer paper. Y'all, this paper is actually, well, all paper is wood, obviously, but this has like a wood grain. It smells like wood. It's unusual. I found it at the thrift store, of course, because, yeah, that's my jam. So I went ahead and used my StazOn in jet black and stamped that onto the wood, and I cut it out. And now I'm altering this card by collaging on it. This is what I do for all of these cards. This, if you want to look at the playlist, you'll see for the majority of them, this is how I started. I use my Uhu glue stick and some of my scraps, and I just cover the card with some different papers and whatnot. So that's what I'm doing here. And I don't know why this video is 10 and a half minutes long. So I know I edited this and thought, that's kind of long, but we'll get to it and we'll see what happens here in a bit. Now, what I love about these ICADs is it's a small area, and so you get to kind of play and experiment and use different techniques on them without having the pressure of a large canvas or an art journal or something like that. It's just these little cards. So if you haven't done it, I recommend it. You don't have to wait for next June and July. You can go ahead and over on Tammy's site, you can find this year along with previous year's prompts and ideas and all of that, and go ahead and create something. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and throw some paint down on this card. That is some chalkboard paint from the Dollar Tree. And I had an epiphany the other day when I did this, that chalkboard paint would be a lot like black gesso and would also give you a nice flat matte surface that would be great for making marks in. So I'm making marks with this chalkboard paint, and I'm going to dry it. And then I'm going to come in with a Uniball Signo white gel pen. Looks like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's what that one is. And I'll have links to some of my products below. I'm not going to link to the Dollar Tree chalkboard paint. You can find chalkboard paint wherever, if not at the Dollar Tree. I'm sure Walmart or Amazon or whatever will have some cheap chalkboard paint. But I will link to like my pen and my glue stick and whatever. And if you do buy something on Amazon, I will get a small portion of the proceeds. But there's no extra cost. Just there's your little disclaimer. So I didn't realize it, but these marks that I put inside the chalkboard paint kind of almost look like football stitches. I don't know. I didn't realize that till later, but I just put, some marks, and then I'm going around each of those marks. I don't think that shows up very well, but they're there. All right, so I'm coming back in. I've got a needle with some embroidery floss on it, and I've already knotted it. And I'm going to make some marks with this stitching. I love to stitch into things, and I've been doing that, especially with these ICADs. Like I said, this small substrate really especially being a daily thing, gives you a chance to experiment and play with ideas and techniques you haven't done before. And I found in this, I really enjoy the process of stitching into paper. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm just going to put these, I love this, I don't even know what color of embroidery floss this is, but it's this like fuchsia, plummy, purpley, pink. I don't know. It's delicious. And I'm kind of stitching around that mark there that I made. It comes out kind of neat where it's just around that one mark. And you'll see it in the end. You see how there I'm stopping before I get to that mark? It gives it a really neat effect, like a force field around it. Oh, y'all, I'm such a dork. Sorry about that. So yeah, and I believe that's just 3 strands of embroidery floss. Keep in mind when you use embroidery floss, most of it, the DMC and some of the better brands all have 6 strands to them, which you can pull apart if you want a thin line when you're stitching on paper to make thin marks. Then just pull it down to 1 strand, or it's pretty easy to pull apart and use just what you want, and that way your thread goes a lot further. But if you want a big chunky stitch line, keep those 6 threads. Just make sure you've got an embroidery needle with a big enough eye hole. And if you can see there, because I wanted to go around that mark, I was poking my hole there in the front to avoid from that blindness of coming in from the back. I didn't want to come in and mess up that mark and mess up this idea I had of like the force field going on around that mark. So, and that works for a lot of different things if you're creating. If you want to have a specific thing, just make sure you mark that hole for that stitch. All right, I think we're getting close to the end of this before I get too crazy with my mark making. Like I said, I really love doing it, and it becomes just kind of like I could have probably stitched that whole card or this whole card, but I chose not to. Now I'm just going to tie a couple of knots here in the back to secure my thread. And if I wanted to, I could have just left that alone and taped it or something, but it's just as easy for me to tie a knot. So I'm going to get that going, and I guess that's what made this video a little extra long, was my stitching, and I left that all in there for you to see. Now I took the extra thread that I had there, and I'm just kind of bunching it up to use as a backer for my mixtape, my wood mixtape. So it gives it, I guess that the wood veneer and the mixtape definitely gives it like an old school 80s vintage vibe. Definitely very retro. Now I wanted to give a little more movement in there, so I used just a pencil. It's my favorite chunky pencils, and just scribbled a little. And then I'm coming in. That is actually any kind of colored pencil will work. This is a watercolor pencil, but I just needed a pencil. And I made some marks on there, and now, oh, what did I decide? Oh, here I decided to frame this up. And I'm just using that same Stays On ink pad to go around it. And I'm going to do a little bit of splattering with some, I guess since I wanted that retro vibe, I wanted to give it a little age to the card. So I've got some instant coffee that I reconstituted, and I'm just splattering on there. And while that's wet, I'm going to go ahead and dry it before I move on. And I'm just getting any little extra wetness out. And that did smush down some of those splotches, but it's okay. Whatever. And with the plastic palette knife, I'm going to lay down some matte gel medium to stick that thread into. I didn't really need something that heavy of an adhesive for the thread, but that wood veneer absolutely needs something a little bit heavier. So, and it did curl just a little because it's such a heavy material, I guess is the best thing. And then I pulled out my Art by Marlene stickers and found the phrase "live free and let be," and I'm going to stick that down. And y'all, I think that's finally it for this. I think that's it. You see, I'm trying to hold that down. I'm going to end up using some clothespins to hold my little cassette tape down. And then I'll give you a quick look of that, and there'll be some pictures here at the end. If you have any questions about this or any of my ICADs, just let me know. I am more than happy to answer anything for you. And thanks for watching. Keep on crafting on. Bye.